I'm Dan Orzech. I'm the general manager of the Oregon Clean Power Cooperative. We're a member-owned co-op, and I should use this opportunity to introduce one of our board members, Ari Simmons, who's here. So I'm going to talk to you about community solar. At its simplest, community solar is a bunch of people coming together to put solar up together rather than on their individual roofs. Now, it gets complicated from there. So I will hopefully try to, in 15 minutes or so, explain some of that. So the first thing to know about community solar is it's one of those terms I like to think like sustainability that's so broad it's almost meaningless. So in Oregon, there are actually at least four different types of community solar. And when you think about putting up solar somewhere else, what's the role of the utility? In Oregon, that's confusing because we have our utilities are what's called regulated monopolies, meaning they are both the source of the power, they generate it, and they deliver it. In other states, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Texas, Illinois, I think, those two roles are split. So all the utilities are, in those states, are the wires that deliver the power to your house or business. In Oregon, we combine these roles. Community solar begins to split them apart. So it's a lot easier to understand how that works if you come from a state where the utility does not generate the power already. Okay, so I said there are four different types of community solar. One of them we're going to ignore, and that is for what they call the consumer-owned utilities, which serve about a third of the state, and all of Eugene, Ashland, McMinnville, most of the coast. So those folks, some of those smaller utilities have their own community solar programs, but they're not accessible to us. So thinking about this split between who generates the power and who delivers it, you should think about the bigger context, which is that we're in the middle of a revolution in energy, right? So it used to be that there was a big power plant, whether it was a coal plant in Boardman, and then there was a bunch of wires, and at the other end are these lights, right? So that's the past. That model, which has been around for 100 plus years, is history. And we're in the middle of this revolution, so it's hard to see it, but this is the future. The future is power generated everywhere, going everywhere, being stored everywhere, maybe in some of those batteries out there in the parking lot, right? And then going into your house, maybe going into your neighbor's house. So this is the future. I like to think of it as the internet, right? The electric grid is becoming the internet. Okay, so four different types of community solar. We're not going to talk about the ones in the smaller utilities. The other three are what we call community solar, and to simplify things, we'll call the other one co-op solar. So let me talk about that first. So co-op solar is something that we pioneered a half dozen years ago. And what that is putting solar up, people coming together to put up the money to fund solar on community organizations. So we're not a nonprofit, we're a co-op, but because we're a co-op, we are a business that has a social conscience, and so our focus has been on what I call community organizations. So that's schools, nonprofits, and we've done about 35 projects to date. This is kind of a random sampling. Schools, the County School Districts at the coast, we help them with solar and batteries. Schools includes universities. We're working with a community college in Central Oregon. We're doing 3 more projects with OSU. Local governments, counties, cities, and faith communities. I think St. Andrews and Lutheran is the closest to project that we've done to Lake Oswego. And we've been working with the Lake Oswego Sustainability Network for I don't know how many years now, trying to find local projects in Lake Oswego. It's hard because you guys are blessed or cursed, depending how you want to look at it, with a lot of trees. So it's hard to put up solar here locally. And then we're working with a few sustainably minded businesses. So this is the first one, a brewery. We just are finishing our second one, which is a vineyard. So because we're a co-op, we don't do the same sort of projects that a commercial solar developer might do. We look at projects not just from a single bottom line perspective. So I want to show you one project we're working on that I just think is totally cool. I'm really excited about this project. This is an 1890s Bureau of Indian Affairs building up in on the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs Reservation. And if you know the history of the tribes, they were forcibly relocated from rich fishing grounds along the Columbia and then also from southern Oregon, and dumped here in the middle of central Oregon where the land is not very productive. So in the 1860s, 70s, beginning then, they became dependent on the federal government for survival, for food. So this building is where they stored the food, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and so it symbolizes to the tribes that whole era of dependence and oppression. So we're working with a nonprofit in Warm Springs that has taken this building and moved it and is going to repurpose it into, kind of hard to see, this is the building here, into a net zero business incubator for small businesses in Warm Springs. So we're doing the energy part of the energy part, we're doing the solar. And it's going to be very cool. This is Highway 26. There's about 8,000 cars a day that go along that highway. Right now, almost none of them stop. And so part of the idea of moving this building right next to Highway 26 is that people will stop, they will learn about the tribes, learn about net zero, they will eat lunch in the food court there. This is a view from Highway 26, so this is where the building now sits. They picked it up and moved it last May. So those are the sorts of projects we do, and you can invest in those sorts of projects. How does it work? So one share of stock on minimum investment is $1,000, and we pay you back annually over 10 years. And again, it's not a mutual fund. We take a different approach, so you tell us what kind of return you want to make. So we let people choose between 1% and 4%. We know we can make it work at 4%. If you choose a lower rate of return, then we have more money to do projects down the road. And here's sort of a schematic. So you have to be an Oregonian to join the co-op. Once you join the co-op, you can invest in the project. We then take those investments. As I said, the minimum investment's $1,000. I think our average is $7,000 or $8,000. We get people who put in $20,000 or $50,000. We put those together and we develop a project that generates a revenue stream from the energy savings, right? The electric bill goes down. And then that then comes back through us to you in repayment, and everyone benefits. So you get paid back after 10 years. At that point, there's solar up somewhere on the roof of this church, perhaps. It's been paid for. The fuel is free. And the solar panels are good for 25 years, sometimes 30. So, all right, so let's talk about community solar. So I said there were 4 types, right? So the one for smaller utilities we're not going to talk about, co-op solar, and then there's 2 forms of what's conventionally called community solar. So this is the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. We help them with a co-op solar project in Ashland, and then on this building, which is their relatively new production building where their scene shop and costume shop is. It's located in Talent, a few miles north of Ashland. And so when you look at this, it looks like a solar project. It's actually not. It's actually 2 solar projects. So on the right is a co-op solar project that goes into that building and was financed by people around the state. On the left is a community solar project. So it has no connection with the building, except that it's sitting on their roof. It's actually connected to the grid. And again, people around the state didn't signed up for that power. So the way it works is when the legislature created this community solar program, they required the utilities to be the billing middleman, to show the credits for the power generator on your bill. So this is that idea again. Community solar goes up in one place, and people can be anywhere. They don't have to be physically connected to it, can sign up to get the power. So our project, so we're developing projects around the state. We have a bunch in the works. It takes a long time, multiple years, to get a project up and running. Our first project that's available today for people who get their power through PGE is a collaboration with OSU's College of Agriculture. It's located at the OSU Extension Center in Aurora, across from Charbonneau. If you know where that is, just next to Wilsonville. And it's doing two things. So it's community solar, so you could sign up to get your power there at a discount. But it's also allowing OSU to do research on combining solar and agriculture. So why do that? Because increasingly, well, we're going to need a lot of solar, right, to save our planet. And where's it going to go? So increasingly, it's going onto farmland. And people are pushing back against that, right? We need food, but we also need energy. So it turns out that conflict is kind of a red herring, that you can actually combine them. So that's what we're doing there. This is called Solar Harvest. There's flyers there on the chair if you want on your way out. And so we put up a community solar project, and OSU is doing research. It turns out that when you grow plants in the shade of solar panels in between them, that they do really well. This is, I think this is the melon patch, if I remember right. And there's all sorts of other learnings that are coming out of this project. So this is a highly sophisticated bird monitoring system that's owned by one of the national labs, not Sandia, I forget which one. So what they found is that it turns out that the raptors really like to perch on the solar panels, because who hangs out in the shade? Well, little rodents. So all sorts of surprising learnings. So that is kind of a super quick survey of community solar. Let's see if I have anything else here. No. So you probably feel like you're drinking from the fire hose, but we have a few minutes now and we can talk. We can answer questions. Yes?
So if we were to participate in the one,
Yeah.
what would I do? I'm a renter, I live in Lake Oswego.
Yeah. So, great question, because community solar is available for renters as well as homeowners, right? You don't have to own your home. It's really the only option available to renters. Well, sorry, you can invest in a project through a co-op solar project, or you can sign up for community solar. So what you do is you give us your name, basically, and a copy of one of your bills, so we can figure out how much your subscription, how big your subscription would be, and then we'll put that size into a contract. We'll send you a contract, and that's it. So we do that all electronically. Send you a contract.
Do I write you a check for anything?
Nope.
I'm just buying power from.
You're buying power from someone other than PG, from us. And you're buying it at less, 12.5% less.